it's opening, right? You're not just gonna leave this cut as a raw edge. You're gonna have those edges finished, right?
Yep.
So many times that's just part of this right here, but many times you won't have a seam that actually can run and turn into a placket. Your placket is somewhere other than where the seam is. It's placed differently. So what we do in that case is we can't just fold under the seam allowances and turn it into a placket. We actually need to give a slit in the fabric and finish those edges that we're going to cut right here so that we have a nice finished edge over here, okay? Something like this. So what we need for this is, I'm going to show you 3 different types of plackets, so hopefully it won't be a lot for you. But let's start with, this is the most simple kind.
My favorite.
Nancy's like, yeah, right.
Yeah,
So-
you're right. As I'm picking it out.
I started with that same 8 by 10 sample that I asked you guys to cut, and then I made a line right in the middle, which is 5 inches long. Okay, and then I'm gonna cut on this line, and sort of that slit is gonna turn into a placket. Okay, so can I borrow somebody's pen real quick? I have to grab mine.
Pen to write.
Or a pencil. We got it. Jamie, you're good. So there's something that you need to be careful with, the right versus the wrong side, the way this placket is done. So let's say if this is the wrong side of your, didn't I have a right or wrong side? No, I thought I did. Okay. So let's say if this is the wrong side of the placket, so what we do is we actually start sewing this bias strip onto the wrong side. So the right side of the bias strip is gonna be sewn or pinned to the wrong side of your fabric or sleeve. And then I asked for this to be 10 inches long because this will be double the size of the length of the placket. I cut it a little bit longer than 10 inches because I like to keep it longer. I have had experiences where it will turn out to be like tiny bit short, and then I had to redo the whole placket. So after having couple oops, I figured that it's better to just have it half an inch longer just in case. And then if that's what you guys want to do, you can just, since you already have cut it 10 inches, you can cut your opening 4.5 inches or 4 3/4 of an inch instead of 5 inch, so that you have a little bit of extra placket length. And then you can always trim it here. If you're unsure, then you know there's really nothing much you can do other than having to redo it. Okay,
So having extra length is better than
shorter length, yes.
You can always cut it off.
Yep. So,
Better than pulling your hair.
and not too long. Sometimes your fabric stretches and it acts up, so just a tiny bit, like a 1/4 inch longer on both sides, so which means half an inch longer altogether, if you want to go that way. And trust me, since I've started going that way, I have always that exactly half an inch longer placket. I don't know how. Isn't that funny? All right, so now what we need to do is, this is where it's a little bit tricky. So we need to sew this right over here like that as one piece, right? So when we sew it like that as one piece, you see how naturally it lays? It doesn't really kind of like align throughout. So,
we're gonna use it in.
no, we can't ease it in because it's gonna look weird then. So what we're gonna do is, I have 1/4 inch seam allowance here, right? So I'm gonna go in just a little under 1/4 inch. When I say 1/4 inch, a little under 1/4 inch means like 1/8 of an inch in. So it's a little bit angled. And I'm gonna go ahead and pin it right there. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and align it back to the outermost edge right here. So it's a little bit of a triangle if you think about it.
Is it like this?
That's different. We're gonna do one like that too. Right? So once again, we're sewing it to the wrong side so that we can turn it and finish it to the right side. It looks better that way. And then what side would you keep up?
Right side. Right side. You got a top stitch that.
The sleeve side. Sleeve should be up, the bias binding should be down because you want to be able to see this little corner to kind of like move around and jiggle with it and get it out of your way. All right, so as I said, my seam allowance is 1/4 inch.
Oh, instructions say yeah, okay.
So keeping it straight just like this. You see how I didn't pin, like overpin right here? Because I want it to like naturally kind of like take its, how far it wants to fall on from the edge. Now when I'm following 1/4 inch seam allowance, another important thing, I'm not following the shirt seam allowance. I'm following the bias strip seam allowance, the edge for the 1/4 inch seam allowance. Alright, so coming close, pay a little bit extra attention to what I'm doing because this is where it's gonna get tricky. So right where your pin is, that I know that's where my corner is. So I'm gonna hand wheel. It's gonna feel like you kind of sewed that big fold in, but as long as you stop right there at the corner, get your pin out, just work with it a little bit, get it out, get that fold out of your way, and you're gonna be fine. And I'm going to follow that 1/4 inch again. Back stitch. So just like that. Oh, I got it in, of course, while I was talking.
We'll all have to make this sample, even though you might have it in your.
What is it?
We'll all have to make this sample, even though we might have it in that shirt.
Yeah, I would have you do the sample just because
Practice, practice, practice.
practice is gonna make it better for you. So I'm just gonna go, if something like that happens, just go back and do that part.
How many times did it take you to do this when you were first learning to get it right?
A couple times. And if pinning is not enough for you, you can always feel free to hand baste it
Hand-based, yeah.
because that will help.
That saves everything. Doesn't take that much.
So I just went in a little too far. You have to stay close to the edge. Okay? And now what I'm gonna do is, just like how this is kind of like facing now, right? Or
Yeah.
more like bias binding. So I need to press the seam allowances towards the bias binding, and then I'm gonna fold this over and then fold it under like this, and then I'm gonna finish so on top of this right there, like here. But it's a good idea to press because that's more tricky. And then do this so that you don't have like a fold. So right here, when I'm holding my sample like this, hold it right here in the center, fold it over, and then fold it over again.
Oh, okay.
Not extensively, just enough to cover the seam so that you don't end up sewing on that fold.
You don't wanna, oops.
Oh, you make
See,
it
when I
less-
do this, there shouldn't be any fold in there. And if there isn't, then I know it's gonna get sewn correctly. Do you want to do this much, or do you want me to just go ahead and finish it? So I'll just let everybody pass this around so that you can take a closer look.
the-
That's the trick. If pinning is too hard, just press it and hand baste it. It works out better. And many times muslin you can just like finger press it too, to hold on to the creases.
You don't like to iron it anyway, because when you're done, you wanna iron it anyways.
Right.
It's done.
So once you're done with this part, the folding part, what we're gonna do next, we're gonna start it from the one end and just do the edge stitching as one seam, making sure your fold is covering the seam that you already have in there. And like I said, if you haven't pinned the fold in, you don't have to worry about sewing it in because it won't get sewn in. Usually I would ask you to pin your fabric like perpendicular to your seam, but for something like this you have to keep it lengthwise, just because the pins will hold your bias binding just a little bit more.
I noticed you put the little triangle little stitch on the end. You don't really have to do that. if You
It
don't want
holds,
to, right?
yeah, it makes it lay down a
It
little.
makes it lay flat.
Yeah,
on the
but once you
outside.
iron it,
If you've
Alright.
done it, you may have a tendency to
To
unwrap
keep
it out.
well, what it's gonna do is it's gonna, if it's not folded in and stitched in, it kind of like keeps folding out, and that doesn't look right.
Unless
So-
you want it to be like that. Like if you were to do like a bishop sleeve with the, you want it to look open,
oh, maybe, yeah.
then you can leave it just
Make
like
it-
this.
Almost like a teardrop opening. You mean?
Yeah, you still don't want this to be like standing up though when you're wearing the sleeve. Like for example, if this is the right side, you will have a different type of finish then. You still don't want this to be like standing up when you're wearing it. So this is the right side and we want this to go to the back side. So we're gonna go ahead and align these and make a little tuck in here.
You get a miter.
Like you're saying,
Let it
Not on the fabric, just on the
point and the inside point.
on the
Inside
corner, yeah.
Inside corner, yeah. Gotcha. Oh, okay.
So that when you wear your sleeve, it turns out to be more like,
rather than inside.
Yeah. That's nice.
yeah? You want to do this or you want to do the other one more placket? Let's do this first.
Yeah.
Really?
For the second placket, do you want to draft the pattern?